What's up, everyone? So I'm going to be reacting to a section from this video, George speaking on language revival. So we're going to listen in. I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions, and let's check this out.
And I just basically asked them questions like, how do you feel about this? How do you think about that? And reading Alexandra Eichenville's book, one of the books that she has is called Languages of the Amazon. Mm-hmm. She had a section in there, I think it's in the very second chapter, that is talked about nested identity, right? Mm-hmm. And nested identity is this concept where you have multiple peoples that speak different languages and they come together, and in time their children, as they intermarry, they develop a new language.
Well, that would be like the Taino language, right? The Taino language evolved in the Circum-Caribbean, right? So the language that we know as Taino wouldn't be the same as Local John or YU.
Mm-hmm. It's the evolution. I mean, it's the evolution of things, and language is an evolutionary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I imagined myself in a nested community, right? Where we have all these Taino words, but to fill them in, we're going to use words from the closest related languages, like Locono.
That I would disagree with. Locono would be one of the most distant Arawakan language, along with YU, because they are mainland Arawakan languages, right? Taino, Kalinago, and Garifuna, those are island Arawakan languages. Today, only one is still spoken to this day. That's Garifuna, right? The Taino, what we know as Taino, are those Arawaks separated from the mainland 2,000 years ago. So the Taino is going to be different from Local John, right? For example, the Taino, they don't have the near future fa like in Local John, right? They have the ba. So to say we will conversate will be Wahioba, we will conversate, right? Garifuna, Wayanuhaba, we will conversate. Local John, it's Wajiafa for we will conversate, right? Local John doesn't have the ba as the near future. So you can see when you compare Taino with mainland Arawak, there's going to be differences, and we'll explain about that in a little bit.
The closest language to Taino is Locono. And there are more,
which is from the Arawak.
The Arawak,
right, family.
Yeah. So the Taino.
So from the Arawakan family, right, you have branches of different Arawakan languages, like Baniwa, Piapoco, Achawa, Palikor, right? Those are other Arawakan languages.
Taino language is a Tamaipuran Arawak language. And Locono, to me, is like the Latin of the Arawak languages.
This, in my opinion, this is like sort of taking the same take with UCTP, which he said that he wasn't going to do, right?
So, Locono, Wayu, I used some Garifuna, not too much. And part of that is because Garifuna itself is a nested language, it's
completely. But the Garifuna culture is such a reminder of what you're saying, right? Because they have I mean, talking about resistance and really taking pride and fighting for identity, they have done it. They've been able to protect language, cultures, everything.
Just to comment on that, right? The Garinagu, who speak the Garifuna language, right? They were able to preserve an island Arawakan language, right? The new Arawak branch. So what we know as Taino, right, was recorded as being both New and Ta Arawak. New being the oldest, Ta Arawak being the youngest, right? So what's the differences? With Ta Arawak, right, they would use the D as the first person, right? Like in Taino, we have the word Daka. Local John has the word Dakia. That's the first person pronoun of I, me, right? But then we have the word Ni Taino that has the N as the first person, like Niduhenu for my relatives, right? So what we at the time of contact, what we know as the Ta Arawak branch, that went extinct, right? The Ta Arawak of Island Arawak speech that was spoken, right? The only thing that survived through the present day was New Arawak, right? From the Island Arawak speech, right? And that would be through Garifuna.
And for me, I think that Garifuna is probably, after Lokono, it's the most beautiful Arawak language there is. And the reason for that is because they take not only words and concepts from Arawak and Carib, which are very different, but also from African languages, Spanish and English, and they make it work in a way that is uniquely Garifuna or Garinago, the way they call it.
Just comment on that, right? Like Jerry said, right? The Garinagu, they use an African spirit to speak a Native American language, right? And although the Garinagu, right, the Garifuna language, they have like about one African loan word, which is Mutu. But the Garinagu, they use an African spirit to speak the Native American language. So there'll be some differences, right? They still maintain a lot of Arawakan words, right? Words that you will find in the 1665 Kalinago dictionary, right? The Garinagu, they still use some of those, they still use those words today. Like some Taino words, right? They still use today. Like the word sinato, right? The Garinagu have the word signati, signato, same word.
It's really a spectacular language. But coming into this work, you know, there are some some efforts where people have adopted the languages of these people, you know, and they'll say like, I'm gonna learn Garifuna, for example, and use that. But I didn't want to appropriate anybody else's work or anybody else's language, you know.
Okay, that I would disagree with. Okay, when me and Jerry, when we went to Garifuna classes in Casa Unimain, right, and learned from our Garifuna teacher, Milton Giti, he has said and encouraged for people in the Taino community to come and learn Garifuna and to reclaim their language, right? And also as well, even Ruben Reyes has stated the same, right? That our Garifuna teacher, Milton Giti, right? And which was through encouraging the people in the Taino community to learn the Garifuna and reclaim their Arawakan language. So taking Milton Giti and Ruben Reyes words, right, and that's not appropriating. An example of appropriating would be like Taino Borikinaki, right, which what they did with Taino Borikinaki, right, they used a Wayu, right, the Wayu language, and they called it a different language, which was Taino Borikinaki. And at the same time, they omitted some Taino words that we already have for Wayu. So in that example, that would be appropriating someone else's language.
Because if I change it, then I'm wrong. If I, so what I wanted to do was, and that one of the things that I worked on with my advisors was, I just wanted to do something that, whether it's right or wrong, good or bad, it's ours. It's uniquely ours. So where it diverges, right? I picked the words that best fit together, and then since the Arawak language is also very suffix driven, and you can put words together. Like, for example, somebody.
I'm going to stop it right there, right? In order to learn how to put words together, you have to learn a language, right? You can either, if you want to speak New Arawak, right, you can learn Garifuna. If you want to learn how to speak Arawak, you can learn how to speak local John, right? And by learning how to speak an island Arawakan language, right, which would be through Garifuna, or a mainland Arawakan language, which would be local John, right? You can learn how the language works, right? And then using that knowledge, right, you can learn how to put Taino words that we have into sentences. So that's all for today. Like, comment, and share. Don't be reactionary. Put some thought into this. And until the next bill.